G'day guys, Corporal Gray here, and today in this video lesson you'll be taught the basic history of the AAC, keyword there being basic. This is only a short little video just to keep you guys occupied during these trying times. As I mentioned just then, in terms of AAC, that's a word that will pop up a lot in this video, and just as a reference up here, the AAC stands for the Australian Army Cadets. So obviously us wearing this uniform, that is us collectively, we are the AAC. If you feel like throughout this video you've missed something or you've fallen behind at all, you're more than welcome to pause the video or either track back and catch up on what you feel like you've missed. And obviously just then I'd be asking you to be writing down these notes in your cadet handbooks. And before we start this lesson, I'd like to quickly say, personally, I'm hoping that you and all your families are keeping safe and happy, and you yourselves are looking after those that are around you and your loved ones as well. But the most important thing that you can do for yourself is looking after yourself. This can either be looking after your mental health, physical health, just keeping active and keeping yourself occupied. Obviously, if you're not in the best state of mind or anything, then you'll be no help to anyone else. So it's integral that you look after yourself along with those around you. I'll be wheeling you guys in because I've got the computer here perched up on an office chair here. I'll wheel you guys in here. Hopefully you guys can see those notes nice and clearly, and I'll just be out of frame here pointing and referring to each timeline, and you can take notes along the way. Obviously, as I mentioned before, if you think that you've missed something or you've fallen behind, don't hesitate to press the pause button or either track back throughout the video and make sure that you get down all these notes in your notebooks. So let's begin the lesson. Now, dating back all the way to the 1850s here, this is when British soldiers were first stationed in Australian colonies and actually began to train locals. But even then, as early as 1834, some school students were being trained in terms of drill training, so like we do with parade and that kind of stuff along that those lines. And then jumping to 1866 here, we have a man by the name of Reverend MacArthur. That's quite a mouthful and a bit to spell, so like I said, don't hesitate to press the pause button and write that one out. And he was the man who raised the very first official cadet unit on the 29th of March 1866. And this first official cadet unit was actually based within an Australian school in Sydney. Now jumping to the 1870s, just down here. By this time the cadets have started picking up a bit of speed, and by now in New South Wales schools alone there was over 850 cadets participating in the program. By 1901, this is when Australia and Federation occurred within Australia. So this is when we became an independent country and as a collective on the January the 1st of 1901. But yet, even as we were a whole country, cadet units still remained under the control of the state that they were in. So obviously you had the New South Wales Cadets and then Queensland Cadets, and all based into different states, and they were still under the control of those states. Jumping up here to 1910, this is where it was actually compulsory for all medically fit males from 14 to 18 years of age to actually serve in the cadets. And then obviously, to most of your prior knowledge, 1914, this was the outbreak of World War I, with many ex-cadets who had previously left joining up to fight in the war as a quote-unquote great adventure, as they saw it. And once again, jumping to 1918 here, this is when World War I finished. And obviously, unfortunately, many cadet units closed. This is probably due to financial spending on the military and that throughout the war. And obviously, the Great Depression soon followed after the end of World War I. So that wasn't a great hit for the cadet units throughout the country. This is when finally, in 1951, the Australian Cadet Corps was raised. So, all cadet units were no longer raised under a particular state. We were now all one collective as the nationwide Australian Cadet Corps. Obviously now to 1963, this is when His Highness Prince Philip became the Colonel-in-Chief of the AAC, and this is on the 24th of May, 1963. Once again, jumping to 1985, this is when cadets started to take more of a modern approach, and this is when the units actually started now basing themselves in separate areas or regions. So previously, back on this left-hand side of the whiteboard here, in these sort of time sets here, the cadet units were actually based within public Australian schools throughout different states and that. But now, like we do today, cadet units are based in their own separate HQs in different areas and regions. Jumping now to more recently, 1996, this is when all cadets nationwide came under control of the Australian Defence Force and became the ADFC, just here. And that stands for the Australian Defence Force Cadets. So this is obviously now, in today's society, this is where we have our 3 corps. So it's not just the Australian Army Cadets up here. We've obviously got us guys, the AAC, and then we have the Australian Navy Cadets and the Australian Air Force Cadets. And us, along with the 2 other cadet corps, we as a collective all form the ADFC, or the Australian Defence Force Cadets. Now, fast forwarding to today's day and age, the AAC nationwide itself, across Australia, has now a total of 5,200 cadets in the Australian Army Cadets alone. I think that's absolutely amazing. That's quite astronomical, to be quite frank, and it's great to see that so many kids are actually committing themselves to such a great organisation. Now I'll pull you guys back over to me. Obviously, as I mentioned, this was going to be just a short lesson, briefing you on the basic history of the AAC, keyword basic. Hopefully, as I mentioned before, you guys were able to take down all the notes in your cadet handbooks. And if you didn't, you're more than welcome to track back to any point in this video and write down the notes that hopefully you able to clearly see here. Other than that, like I said, hope you and your families are keeping safe. I believe and hopefully you have been taught the basic history of the AAC to a satisfactory standard. I believe there is another set of videos to be released, but other than that, I hope you guys are keeping safe and doing well, and that's the end of our lesson here.